you were chasing everything else but me. I'm starting to break out from your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes, and I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I want to recognize. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away, I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. I'm not backing down, 'cause the future is now. Not backing down, 'cause the future is now. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away, I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. The future is now. So now you're here again, knocking at my door. A little too late for, I'm sorry for. The lights went out 'cause you kept cutting the cord, and I started to fade into your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes, and I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I want to recognize. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away, I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. The future is now. I waited for you in the passenger seat. There's only so far I can ride in your dreams. While you were chasing everything else but me, I'm starting to break out from your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes, and I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I want to recognize. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away, I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now.
There's our faces. See it? Edgar?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. All right. That's our faces. I'm Melissa Murphy. That over there is.
I think I'm Edgar Blunt.
Are you? Is that who you are today?
I'm Edgar Blunt.
Okay, good. All right. So let's get started. Cool. It
wanna-
jumped over. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, we have a few more people probably joining.
Okay.
I see a longtime friend, first-time caller already online.
Who's
So
that?
welcome,
Nice.
Mr. SB.
SB, nice. Any others, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're grateful that you chose to attend.
Yeah.
Our objectives today, we're going to walk through 2 tools and also include an Imago video. And so these tools, we hope that you can use at home, school, life, just in general. So again, 2 tools that we'll walk through. We'll go through our first tool, and then an Imago video, and then wrap up with our last tool. That's our agenda. We've got 60 seconds, so we'll keep within that.
60 seconds.
60 minutes.
And this webinar
is over. Sorry, minutes. Our rules. So we hope that you can find a distraction-free area.
We will be a distraction enough for you.
And we will be distracting each other. I know with people, folks working from home and in some unconventional areas and maybe children involved, this may not be the easiest thing to do, but feel free to hopefully find that area. Participate in a Venti Meter, and we'll show you what that is and walk you through those instructions when we get there. There is a chat section, so feel free to use the chat section on the YouTube. And then if you have a pencil or pen, paper and sticky notes available, those will come in handy as well. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me, Melissa. How's
Good.
it sound to everyone out there watching?
Hopefully it sounds okay. And then, do we have any questions so far or any comments in our chat section?
Can everyone do us a quick favor? We will be using chat a lot. Can you go find the chat function on your browser and just ping us with an unconventional greeting?
Unconventional, okay.
Hello. That's what TE wrote.
Nice. Nice.
Ooh, sunglasses.
I love
Emoji
some
greeting.
sunglasses.
I like that.
Okay.
All right. I feel like people are using the chat now. They're familiar.
Cool.
So we can rock and roll.
Rock and roll. And of course, exit policy, if you have to go, it's okay, we understand. It's a webinar, it's recorded, you'll have access to it later if you would like to go back and look at it. So with that, we are going to jump into our, let me hit the right button here. Cool. Our stoking activity that we're going to start with. Edgar, could you please give us a quick instructions on how to utilize the menti.com?
So why don't you do this? I know most of you probably have access to a second device. So grab your phones and just open up a browser and search Menti or Venti Meter. Please do it now. Go to Venti Meter, and it's going to ask you, first thing it basically is join a meeting or join a presentation. And there you would have to add in the code 142457. Hike. There's no hike at the end of it.
No hike.
But add that in so that you can play along with all the interactive features of today's amazing workshop presentation webinar.
Perfect. So as you folks are typing in your favorite karaoke song or song you like to sing as loud as you can, Edgar and I will share the ones that we enjoy singing.
Well, I already like the first answer I see, Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh.
Well, that's a good one. Well, since we're talking about karaoke, there's a couple. We've done quite a bit of karaoke in Las Vegas. So when I think of Las Vegas, I think of Faithfully by Journey. I definitely can belt that out in the car. I've seen Melissa do, what's the Gaga song that you do?
Shallow. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I remembered Shallow. And that song, if you like to belt out, I don't like anybody to hear me, but it is a fun one to sing, and you can get really passionate during that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not because you're shallow, but because it's a good song.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Just want to make sure you knew.
Okay, good deal. All right, perfect. Thank you for participating. And even if you don't sing, sometimes it's fun to just let some energy out and, do the next. Kind of leads me to my next question of self-care, because singing can sometimes boost my mood. I know that's for sure.
There's a lot of endorphins released.
Yeah. Let's go here. And so our next question that we would like you to kind of chime in on here is, what are you doing for self-care currently? It's a conversation, it's a big topic right now, and so we're asking just within a word or two, what are you doing for your own self-care?
Yeah, as many answers as you want. Who knows, it might be helpful to someone who is also joining us in this webinar.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sometimes you get bored of yoga. Maybe you need something else.
One of mine has been bike riding. The weather's been nice, and those rides on the bike have been a lot of fun. So, yeah.
It's good self-care.
Walking, agree with that.
Walking. What else do you do out there? Has anybody seen the free yoga tool, Yoga with Adrian? There's anyway 20 to 40 minute sessions in there that are pretty good.
Yeah. And another one, I'm just going to say, because I enjoy it at the end of the day, is a glass of red wine. So that can help.
Self-care?
It's a little bit at the end of the day. A reward for myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Listening to music, running, lawn. Oh, cool. Lawn work, I like that too. I love being in the backyard. That's a good one.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have a fan. Somebody else likes wine. When we can see each other in person, we can meet up.
There would definitely have been a high five if this was a live facilitation.
And we were allowed to.
She may have given you some tchotchke or something too. You're like, here's a T-shirt.
Yeah, and if I didn't have to be 6 feet away from you like I am with Edgar right now. So.
She's definitely 6 feet away.
All right.
I have a yardstick here. She's in the same room, but I can't see how I'm not able to touch her.
You can't even see it.
It's a yardstick, but so it'd have to be 2 of these.
All right. Very cool. Thank you all for participating. We're going to jump back into our presentation and give you a little bit of insight about who we are as an organization.
So if you don't know who we are, Imago, we are a bunch of lifelong learners, shenanigators, and designers. What we want in this world is we want to embed emotional intelligence or social emotional learning into all things, and hopefully redefine the way we measure success in this world. Why that matters to us is because we live in kind of a very wild and challenging world, so we totally think that that's going to be necessary for all of us to kind of get through this. Not only just what we're going through, but previous to this, it wasn't, those skills are definitely required, I think, for this world. We do this with digital curricula at Imago. We do this with professional training, and we've been doing this for about 7 years now. And we do it predominantly with school districts like Clark County. We work a lot in the West Coast. We also work with Native American tribes and other government agencies who are also learning or helping develop humans to be the best versions of themselves. So we're super grateful to be doing the work. It's near and dear to what we want to do for humanity.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. This is our diagram, or our version of emotional intelligence and what makes that up. For today's purposes, we're going to be focusing on the areas of self-management and just kind of understanding we're going to get into values and attitudes. Edgar, can you explain a little bit more about our lens of EI?
So there's a lot of lenses out there. This is our model. We've taken from a lot of the models out there, similar to Castle, but we added the global awareness aspect, again, just thinking about how emotional intelligence has a lot to do with the environment and the systems that we play in, and how we can interact and understand to better serve kind of the global system. And we use this, and we're kind of showing it to you because we use this to kind of create a common language, a common tool, because it's easy to say be a better human or be nice, right? But how do you talk about each of these in certain levels of competencies or areas of skills that you can develop? So we use this to kind of take this giant daunting task of saying, be more emotionally intelligent, to saying, hey, we're going to work on some things around self-awareness or self-management like we're going to do today.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you keep saying that, then this is going to be fun. So we're going to jump into our next question that we're going to ask. And as you see on the screen, it says, how do you define values? So when we ask this question, typically we're in a, in person in a setting, interaction with our participants and our folks that we're training or working with. And so I like to say that there's no right or wrong answer when we ask you how do you define a value? And so before Edgar and I share how we define values or our definition of it, we would like for you to please type in how you would define a value. You can use a couple of words, you can use one word. Again, no right or wrong answer, just setting the tone for how you would define that.
That's a great way to request and invite some interaction. So please, love to hear your thoughts. What's going on in your brains? Can't see you, but we'll definitely read you.
Something important to me.
For sure. Terry said something you live and make decisions by.
Ooh, I like that one.
Ooh, what I'm passionate about.
Passionate about, I like that. We got Chats, we got Minty.
Something of personal importance.
Okay. That word cherish, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And ooh, decision-making lens. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Edgar, do you have would you say it any differently than what's already up there?
No, again, I think depending on what mood I'm in, I use all these answers when it talks to think about our values and really how does it guide the way we navigate life.
There you go. Yeah, I like that, guiding in life too as well. Very cool. So again, thank you for participating in that question. We're going to go to our next question. And next we're going to talk about a word that you would use to define an attitude as it relates to values. And so what does that look like? So again, I'm going to allow you to kind of chime in and think about that and mull that over. Well, what's a word you would use to define an attitude if we're talking about values? Again, there's not a right or wrong answer with this. I know sometimes students will say, my attitude is like how I, express myself. That's kind of a little bit different than what we're kind of going towards today.
Could you give me an example of what you're looking for?
Of an attitude?
Yes. Or how would you define attitudes as it relates to values?
For me, I define it as a behavior or an action.
Okay. Behavior is something I can see. Emotions.
There you go. Happy, energized. Yeah, so those can be the attitudes associated with the
Good job. Keep
value.
them coming. You're building really great word clouds.
I know, that's pretty.
This is the kind of stuff that we're going to bring back to our data team, and they're going to eat it up. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Not literally eat it up.
No, I don't think Kara would eat that. No. All right. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to jump into our activity. So now that we've talked about how we, a value is something that we cherish, something that's important to us, and then what an attitude is we invite you to find 4 sticky notes or a piece of paper. Edgar was drawing on the whiteboard earlier, and divide up your sticky notes or your paper into what it looks like on the screen around me here. So you've got values, 2 values on one side, and then you're going to write the word attitudes twice on the other side. And again, if you can see Edgar's whiteboard, he's drawing it on there as well. So you could do 4 stickies,
right.
2 values, and then 2
drawing.
attitudes. You could do a piece of paper and section it off into 4s and write values twice and then attitudes twice. All right, got those written down. So
I do.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next part of this is I'm going to invite you to write down a value. And we're actually going to write down 2 different values. So under the first header of values, you'll write down a word that describes something that you cherish, that you find important, again, that it's valuable to you. And you're going to write down 2 different ones. And so I'll show you an example of mine. One would be honesty. And there's an instrument, there's huge amounts of values. There's no, again, in this section, right or wrong. It's really what do you find important to you right now in this moment, maybe just even today in this time. And so, again, my examples are honesty and family are values to me.
You can't take mine.
I can because
You're right. There's no right or wrong answer.
And
we're sharing.
We can share,
which
and
is
we'll
caring.
get to the point where we talk about how we can all have similar values.
We can?
We can.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Do we have any questions or anything? Any chats? No?
No.
No. Cool. I just want to make sure I'm being respectful of our attendees.
Everyone's done a good job being plugged in. Thank you.
Cool. Next section, the next part of this with our values and attitudes activity is to write down how did you show that you valued these things before this big disruption that we've just had. The last few weeks have been very challenging and have changed a lot of the way that we do things. And so I invite you to write down how did your attitudes or behaviors or actions, how did they used to show that you value these things?
All right, so this is before.
Before the disruption.
Before the disruption, how did we value? Okay, I got it.
Got it? So again, just focusing on the before the disruption, how did you show that you valued these things? The things that were important to you. And you're going to write that under both of the attitude sections.
Okay.
Okay.
Teacher, I'm done.
Teacher, you're done. All right, Edgar, would you share just an example, take one of yours and talk about how you used to show that you value that before we got disrupted?
Okay, creativity.
Okay.
I liked having sessions, specifically lunches, where we just sit down and talk about an idea and kind of start at a 30,000-foot view and just kind of meander. But really just kind of a really nice conversation over lunch, which is kind of informal and fun.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. How about you, Melissa? I don't want to be the only one talking.
The only one talking. When it comes to family and how I value them prior to this disruption, it was, we used to meet my aunt and uncle for probably dinner once a week and meet up with them. And so family dinners were with my aunt and uncle would have been a much more normal prior to everything that's happened. So this next question that we're going to ask, because we talked about, okay, what was it like before? Now think about how your behaviors or your attitudes for those values, have they changed? Have you shown that you value these things differently? And so, Edgar, with your example of creativity and lunches and sitting and doing that, are we able to do that anymore?
Everything's a Zoom or GoTo or Google Hangout chat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed one of our participants put down personal connections.
Yeah.
Right? They valued and they had all those personal connections. I'm curious, Botka, if what's changed? How does it look different for you? He says he's totally missing the personal connection with others. Well,
We can agree, totally relate to that.
I met you. You definitely are an extrovert and could use that connections. What are you doing differently, I'm curious, to try and get those connections? He's chatting. Yeah, I get it. It does seem lonely. 1,000% more phone calls. Yeah. It's easy to
For
get.
sure.
Have you noticed that more people answer their phone these days?
That was an option you weren't allowed to, or you didn't have to answer?
I just feel like it's easier to get a hold of people these days.
I think, why do you think that is?
Well, because I think we all are starting to crave that human touch. Before we used to have text and we were so busy going from here to there, doing what we thought was super important to us. And
Right.
one of the things that we realized, or at least what Sanel's talking about and what we're feeling, is how much we miss that social interaction.
Absolutely. And I know teachers are typically used to being in a classroom and talking with students, on a very regular basis. So that's social, that's interaction. As a mom who is not a teacher at home full time, that's been a definitely different kind of interaction as well. So having that adult conversation and talking to my adult colleagues, I definitely look forward to that when we have those as well.
Yeah.
So just shifting it a little bit. My kids are wonderful, but it's also nice to talk to colleagues.
Well, staying on the positive theme, and there's one of the chatters, Linda, has talked about, while we don't have that personal contact, we're at least lucky that we have that video capacity.
Yes.
So, yeah. Way to stay positive, Linda.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I can add to that positive about the change and the disruption of it is, as I mentioned, I like riding bikes. Well, now all four of us are out riding bikes together. And so that's been a good change, because before we were driving cars to wherever I needed to get the kids to and picking up and rushing for here, there, and everywhere. And so allowing us to be able to connect as a family, and I mean, it's been wonderful, and memories are made that way too.
Yeah.
So.
Terry's echoing what you said, and she's having way more game nights now. So good job, Terry.
Good.
I think we all are having more game nights. My question to all of us is really, do you think any of this is going to stick when kind of things might return back to a semblance of what it was? I mean, I hope so. Some of it sticks, like especially the family time.
Yeah. Absolutely. As you're kind of chiming in and typing in at this time too, one of the things I think we should all take time to do is acknowledge this space, that it has changed, and it hasn't been sometimes the most easy. It can be very challenging. It can even be overwhelming sometimes. And so allowing ourselves the opportunity to acknowledge that, embrace it, and just let it sit for a moment, because as adults, we're dealing with this. Can you only imagine what our young people, that it's even more out of their control, are dealing with in this time as well. And so allowing our opportunity to just sit with it and just say, this is what's happening.
Yeah. There's a tool we're going to talk about a little later that would help you if you aren't already having good conversations with your youth or the people around you, just kind of like helping get them to think about and articulate some of these things that might be difficult to talk about.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, and talking about values and attitude, Edgar, why do you think I chose this activity? And then we're going to jump into our actual digital content, digital lessons. It has a little bit different feel, but it's still reflecting on values and attitudes. Why do you think we went here today?
Well, because the title of the webinar is SelfCare.
Okay.
And part of caring for yourself is knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes as adults, we don't spend enough time thinking about what we value. And there's a lot of things that we value. So, this could be a part of a broader exercise that you could do with themselves. They could do as a family during family game night. Just to have some meaningful, rich conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. And along with that, just understanding that, and we'll get more into this with the lesson, but understanding that the way we show we value something can change over time, and doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means that we might show it in a different way. Yeah. And so being able to understand that and reflect on that as well is really important, to know that, hey, we did it this way, and this is how I used to do it, but in order for me to safeguard my family, now I have to do FaceTime versus those, in-person dinners and that kind of thing. So understanding that there's an adjustments that can be made, you could still show that you value them. It's just going to show it a little bit different way.
Yeah, and I'm squirreling here just because we do have a lot of educators online, and yeah. I'm curious. I know that our world values educators, teachers, and learning, but I've got to believe that with a lot of what's going on with parents taking on the learning for their own in their home, that the values may shift, or the behaviors may shift towards our teachers, right? Like I would, as a parent, previous to we value education because we freely gave our kids to educators and trusted them. Now maybe now we stand up for educators and go, I don't know how you did it with 30, because I could barely do it with 3. So maybe some of our behaviors change for positive for educators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Squirrel.
Okay. Love it. No, we can squirrel. We got time. It's good. All right. So our next section that we are going to jump into is, let me pull that up, sorry, is our values and attitudes lesson on the Imago platform. So this is our digital content. We will have some interaction. We'll have another question that we're going to ask you about. And just know that this is something that once we get through with this, if you want to email me access to the platform, that's something we can discuss. If you're wanting to use it with your students or with your families, all of those things, you have access to this as well. So with that being said, I'll stop talking.
It's hard.
I know.
We naturally tend to value some things more than others, whether it's a person, place, object, or idea. Because of this, our attitudes towards those things will also be different. 2 people may respond differently to the same situation based on the different values they hold. Values and attitudes are separate concepts we use to talk about the way people think and interact with the world. A value is a personal standard for behavior and describes the things we judge as being important. Our attitude, the way we think or feel about something, is often closely tied to the values we hold. People that value honesty will more than likely have a negative attitude towards certain behaviors such as lying or cheating. Their attitude is based on what they value. To start thinking about these 2 concepts, consider some of the behaviors you like or dislike. For instance, maybe you really enjoy school but dislike theft. These are your attitudes. From here, consider why you might have these feelings, or in other words, what things do you value that might explain your attitudes? Maybe you value education and learning, and that's why you have a favorable attitude towards school. Or maybe you value hard work, honesty, or treating others well, and this makes you dislike behaviors like theft. How much do you value each of these things? Also consider how you define values and attitudes.
Cool. So we set the tone, and we got our, talked about the different values and attitudes that we have, and kind of got that interaction going. So that's the activity that we did is actually part of a facilitator guide that's attached to this lesson. And so it's one of our favorites to do, ideally in person, because we can really build off the energy of others in the room.
You guys are doing great right now.
Yeah, this has been fun to see the different chats and our interaction in here as well. So again, thank you for participating and providing your feedback, because this will help us as we go through this. So next one.
Pay attention.
Imagine a man robs a bank, but instead of keeping the money, he gives all of it to a poor village to buy books and learning material. As an eyewitness to this, you could make one of 2 decisions. You could go to the authorities and provide information to arrest the robber and return the money, or you could say nothing, allow the robber to go free, and leave the money with the poor village to buy books. What would you do?
I'm going to jump us into the next slide, Edgar, before we discuss.
In this situation, there are difficult decisions to be made and compelling reasons for each decision. This is called a moral dilemma problem that forces you to choose one of two options based on your moral values. Both choices might contain good and bad elements, and the best choice might not be immediately clear. As an observer in this situation, what would you do? What is your reason for this choice, and why didn't you choose the other option?
All right, so we're going to do our Venti Meter again. This time, we're going to ask you to participate in this, and what would you do? Would you turn the robber in, or would you say nothing? And again, we're not judging anybody on what they're putting in there, but we ask that you participate in our poll. Cool. There, I see the responses coming out.
It's neck and neck. There's several of you in there, so hopefully we can get several answers.
Very cool.
Interesting.
All right. All right. So,
You think that's it?
did anybody chime in the chat by chance?
No. Okay.
Okay. So this group is going to turn in the robber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This morning's group, they let him go
Yeah.
if we were voting.
So, Edgar, can you give just a quick example of what it looks like when we are in a classroom and ask students, or even educators, when we do this during professional development and facilitators?
So what I've seen when we do this in the classroom is a majority of the students, say 80 to 90% of the students, would not turn the robber in. And what we're seeing here with educators is what we see when we do this with adults, is that it's closer to a 50-50 split when it comes to turning educators in, or turning the robber in, turning educators in. We're not turning anyone in for your answers here.
Very cool. And then when we switch this up to make it a little bit more personal.
I then would, after we get the students to kind of give their answer in the classroom, or even the adults, I will add in, we have another turn in the robber, so it's 4-2 actually. Okay. What I'll do when it's live is I'll take something personal. I'll take my wallet and I'll leave it, I'll put it right on the desk, and I'll ask the students, okay, so I've been your teacher for some time, I've got some kids, and I'm gonna go buy some shoes for my kids after school. I'm gonna leave my wallet here because someone called me out and I gotta go into the other room, and now you see someone take my wallet. Now what do you do? So I'd like to see what your group would do if you saw someone take Edgar's wallet, my wallet, or Melissa's wallet.
It could be mine. Got a little different response there with.
So we have 5 already. 5
nothing.
turn them in. One chatted at turn in.
Turn in, yeah. A little different when there's a personal, or you can see that face-to-face connection.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have with learners, even adults. Why? Why did you decide when it was so kind of 50-50? Now it's 100% turn in.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think it has something to do with what we were talking about earlier, is this personal connection and the value that we have when we know someone and have kind of that social connection.
Absolutely. Good deal. All right, so we're going to jump back into our lesson.
Thank you everyone for chiming in.
Value
Thanks
is the
for
measure of
saving my
worth or
money so I can go
importance
buy
attached
my
to
kids'
something.
shoes.
The more we value something, the more we are likely to spend resources, time, and effort on it. Someone who values kindness might express that value in the way they interact with others. For instance, they might be generous with their time or money in working to help the homeless in the community. In other words, an attitude is the way someone expresses their values through words and behavior. This means you can understand what someone values by observing their actions. Consider your actions further and the values behind them. Also see if you can identify the values of the robber and how you see them through his actions.
And real quick, Edgar, before I press play on this next one, what do you think that the robber valued in this scenario?
I think the robber valued kind of equal footing for a poor school.
Okay.
The value of education to lift people up.
Very cool. Would you think it would be fair to say he did not value necessarily the law and authority of in making sure that being honest when it comes to those things?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah,
again, fair assumption, right?
But again, we see that people's values can shift pretty easily, not only from like crises and pandemics to just knowing who that money belongs to.
Yep.
What if that bank was a bank for nonprofits?
Right.
Or
different scenarios.
That's where all the grandmas put their money, and grandpas.
And grandpas. Oh. Yeah, absolutely.
While the bank owner might only see the robber as a villain, the children in the village he gave the money to may see him as Robin Hood, a hero who takes from the rich and gives to the poor. Do you see the man in this example as a thief who has committed something bad, or a Robin Hood who does things for the greater good? Then consider his values, how they show his character, and the order in which you see him placing those values.
Again, we kind of talked about that already, so we're going to go back into the lesson.
If you can determine someone's values based on their actions in a situation,
one more tool.
should the reverse be true? Can we determine what someone values without the proof of their actions? For example, if someone helps, supports, and advocates for the poor, we can deduce that they value kindness. But now let's imagine that we don't know what a person has done, and that person says they value kindness. Can we deduce from this that they always help, support, and advocate for the poor? Consider some examples of this logic and the connection between values and action.
I think one of the chats is coming up, and I guess I sparked something, but everyone's echoing that equity in education has totally been exposed by this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and everyone agrees, and we all agree. And what are the things that our system can do as a whole to be, I guess, can't really be better prepared, but I guess we can. Because every day that goes by, are we widening the gap? Sure that there's a lot of people who are having that conversation, and fortunately fears that's happening. That's a whole nother webinar that we could talk about, but I think it would be fun, like systems thinking.
Yes.
How do we as a society use systems thinking or systems collaboration to address the continuing and kind of the inequities in our system?
Definitely, we definitely
Next
another
webinar. Stay tuned.
topic to jump off on, and yeah, absolutely, and sometimes we can say we value, going along those lines, like parents may say they value their child's education, but they just don't have the resources to make it happen right now. And so, as teachers, again, you're supporting these young people and you're making such an impact on them. So we're so grateful for you and all that you do, and to continue to do that however you can in these super uncertain times. And again, just showing that values can be different, our actions can shift completely in just a matter of hours of how we, show that we value something. And so just being aware of that and got to kind of roll with it in these present times, but hopefully being able to reflect on that as well. I'm going to get this one going.
Although it is true that we can understand what someone values in accordance with their behavior, it is not always true that we can know someone's attitude based on what they claim to value. Every situation is different, and the environment can change someone's perspective. For example, a person may say they value exploration, but that does not mean they will physically explore the wilderness. Instead, they may enjoy seeking out knowledge and exploring intellectually through philosophy and meditation. In this situation, the value is the same, but the actions and behavior are different. Now think of something you value and how you show this through your behavior and attitude. If a friend of yours values the same thing, how might they behave differently than you?
Again, just highlighting that we can say we value this, very similar things or the same thing, but we can show it in very different ways. I know the value of toilet paper now is way past what I ever, thought of before. And so again, a few weeks can change the value of something that I took for granted. I'm pretty sure we all did, having access to that.
I feel like toilet paper, I have a question for the group. Do you think, this is something that I did in my generation, toilet papering, TPing. Do you think that would be well received today? Is toilet paper a gift? Could TPing be maybe not necessarily a crime, but like, hey, guess what? Please TP my house. I'm just curious if people would like to be TP'd now. I wish that was a poll question. It looks like a couple of you do not want to be TP'd. But if you ran out of toilet paper, would you want to be TP'd? See how the value shifted right there? I mean, just with the slight,
just a slight
bit of changing the question. Is TPing okay? That's really the question.
I have my own thoughts on this one, Edgar.
If you're the person who's fighting over toilet paper, I bet you think you'd want to get TP'd. And by the person you fought with at the grocery store.
There you go. All right,
Time out.
Girl. Let's get us back to our lesson there.
Our values drive our attitudes and behavior in specific situations. In application, we can understand what someone believes by observing their behavior. This is true for ourselves as well. Reflect on what you are feeling, how you are thinking, and the way you are behaving in a given situation, and you will be able to determine your values in that situation. It's good to ask yourself on a consistent basis whether your behavior and attitudes align with what you value. These skills encourage empathy and self-reflection and are critical skills to practice in meeting people and building relationships. Finally, we must be careful and mindful about a couple of things. Remember that even though your attitudes and behavior might be different from other people, you might still share the same values. In other words, two people may value kindness, but the way they express that value through their actions could be completely different. Does this mean that someone is right and others are wrong? No. It just means that people respond to situations in different ways. The more we understand and are clear about our values, the better we can work together and strive for a positive world.
Very cool. So now we are going to come back to the screen. And before we jump into I Delta O and our other tool, just thoughts again on values and attitudes. What I didn't get to read all the chats. Is there funny stuff happening that I didn't get to see?
We predict the users, the Mind Trust online right now, predict that there will be a toilet paper emoji in the near future.
Oh, for sure.
In the next iOS update. I agree, for sure. Thanks, Tiffany.
That's awesome. Thank you. I needed to, have some laughter. There'll be lots of toilet paper emojis. Oh,
wait. Sanel found one. Of course he did.
Of course he did. Yep.
Technology, man. All right. Well, let's all copy and paste from that so that we could use that moving forward in life.
Again, before we jump into our last tool that we want to make sure we cover, as again, values and attitudes, providing a tool that you could use at home and be able to reflect, and again, understanding that we can value the same things, we can show it very differently, and again, our perspectives can bring that into why we show the actions, and then sometimes just the whole world just changes and shifts of how we show that as well, and so being okay with that. That's okay, yeah, and it's part of it. We're all doing it. We're all having to shift and understand that's where what we have to do in these times.
Yep.
Anything else?
No.
No.
Let's give them that tool.
All right.
Tool 2. Tool 2?
Yeah, there you go. That one.
Tool 2. Say that 8 times real fast.
And so for those of you that have spent time with, I'm not going to, that have spent time with us before, you've probably heard us talk about an I delta O or fast feedback. And so we wanted to walk you through the steps of this today in hopes that you could take it back and not only use it, with school or your students, but maybe in your family and your everyday life. We use it for meetings, for events, for works, but I will say, have been practicing this a lot more at home with my family, just because every day is a new day, and may not ask them for feedback every single day, but we definitely are working through some of this. And so the I is what impressed you, or what are your likes. So you start with something positive and you talk about things that you like. And then we move into a delta, which it can be used for changes. So what would you do differently? And how would you take this and do it, maybe to, adjust it for the next time around? And the O being, how are you going to take this back into your world? What outcomes do you hope to continue with? And how can you adjust those to your world as well? So as we think about this, Edgar?
Well, I would add to that before we kind of get into the tool. Please. Is we do a lot of corporate training as well, and they want us to address corporate culture. And one of the things that research shows is that corporate culture can be improved by having really good feedback. Millennials specifically are craving that feedback. So, and the research out there shows that there's like 9 out of 10 companies actually don't have really good feedback mechanisms. So this is a tool that, again, like Melissa said, you can use in the classroom, they use in corporate environments, but again, you can use at home. Specifically, again, if you're running your own sessions at home and learning, it could be used after a date. It could be used after a movie that you've seen. There's a lot of different uses for that. And I think just getting in the habit of making sure that feedback is something that can be delivered pretty easily, as well as not taken personally, is something that hopefully you can walk away from today's webinar doing.
And so, again, focusing on that I piece, the impressions, we really like to start with the positives of what went well. And so as an example of using this in, at home or just at home with, adjusting to the day or the week. You maybe at the end of the week, you write, what went well this week? And what did I like, and why did I like that? And you could use this again with your students online. Maybe send them an I delta O of what they liked about the week. So what the I really focusing on those positive things and what you liked about that time or that experience. And so we really like to start with something that will kind of uplift us, that makes us hopefully happy, right? With that area. So do we want to do an example of one now?
Sure, we could.
On that section, just the I section, something that you like.
About today, or are we going to go with the Venti Meter and have them go through that?
We could do that too. Because we did fix that and added that to that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we go in, I just want to then I'll kind of talk a little bit more about those deltas and changes before we jump into there, so that people understand that the changes are, we invite you to start with yourself. So whoever is administering the feedback or starting the I delta O, they have, like your students would say what they liked about it, and then you could chime in what you liked about it. And then the changes would start with the person that's leading the conversation. And so talking about, what would I do differently? How would I adjust this or make it better for the next time around? And so that individual can kind of put their guard down a little bit and say, here's something that maybe I would like to do better next time. And so it allows the other folks, so the other participants, the other, your kids, your students, whoever you're working with, the opportunity to then say, okay, they're willing to accept some changes. Now it's my turn. Here's some things I think we could have done better. Again,
I would say it's super important. Good point, Melissa. When there's power dynamics in play, if the facilitator is the one who kind of takes a little bit of humility and says, these are things that I wish I could do better, it helps kind of set the tone for the whole conversation, either at home, if you're the parent, you're like, well, hey, this is what I wish I would have done better. And then letting our kids know that, hey, we learn from our mistakes and we can adjust. These are the kind of the small little tools, right? Failing forward, lifelong learning that you could do. If as a parent, you could do it as a boss. Again, I think those I've seen are very powerful moments in corporations where those power dynamics are broken down pretty easily by just saying, this is how I could be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that final piece, thank you, Edgar, for adding on to that.
You're welcome, Melissa.
Is and how are you going to take the feedback, the discussion, the questions, and the discussion, the likes, the changes? What are some things that you're going to take back and hope to continue doing? And as we're going through this, really, we're going to ask for your impressions, your likes, your and your thoughts of what you could take from this. But think about how we're dealing with this time right now. There's been huge changes, and so what are some things that we like about these changes? What are some things that we would, don't like or would want to see differently? There's lots, of course. But then what do we hope continues to happen? So thinking and reflecting as of right now with the experience you're going through in this moment, what would you hope would continue from this time? And I know we've talked a lot about this, but the family time is,
yeah.
I hope
Chat out the answers. I'm really curious. What would, based off of just kind of your new reality, what do you like about this world? I'm curious. You're saying gardening, praying, sharing, yoga. Love learning about e-learning options. Yeah, these are all kind of the cool things that have come from this. Yeah, I interrupted you. I'm sorry, but you were talking about your family and just.
I love the interruption.
Family time.
Yeah, the family time. As we all mentioned, games were mentioned. I haven't played games with my family on a regular basis in a long time. I appreciate that. And a puzzle came out at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda, like I'm sure many people, she said her dogs are so happy.
Oh.
Right.
Yes.
Did you hear about
that? Except that I see the memes where they're not happy and they want their humans to leave. That would have been funny too.
Did you? You can't answer this, but. Did you see that there is a dog who went to the vet for a sprained tail?
Oh, because he was wagging
it so much because the master's home all the time.
No, I didn't know that was the reason. I knew that was why.
Yeah, you know what? Sanel talked about people seem to be more open to ideas. We've been talking to a number of educators out there, and I feel like, and even a couple presidents of community colleges, and they talk about the capacity to do a little bit more freedom, open to change, but freedom to do what they believe is right for the student. And I think that's really cool, like just rapidly be able to do things. The one administrator said, we used to take 12 personal wet ink signatures for a contract. Now we're forced to do e-signatures with Adobe Reader, right? Like it just gets done so fast. So again, I think that's going to be one of those beautiful system changes that we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
O dinner. What's an O dinner?
Dinner that they're taking O's back and they're eating at home together, cooking together, dinners.
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, that's happened in our house as well. I know Edgar's house. They've incorporated more cooking at home and kids learning to cook, which is always fun.
Yes, the kids are better cooks than I am.
Nice.
So
good deal.
What about deltas? Can you chime in some of the things that you would love to see moving forward that could improve upon this? Not really things you hate, because that's a whole kind of different type of feedback, but really things that you wish we could change that will improve the next time we come through this. Learning to work from home. Yeah. That's probably more of an I still. Anything they could change. Here, I'll share with you one of the things. I talked to an administrator, or a teacher actually, and they said, next time something like this happens, they would love to have the district reach out to get teacher feedback on tools they're already using that works really well. And then once they compile all that information, then the districts could then mass send it out, because I think when they shut down the schools, teachers had nothing, right? And then when they started bringing back options to teachers, it was all over the place. And again, there's a million reasons, and again, we're not trying to bag on educators or administrators, but just having the kind of, how do you make it better, is getting a little more feedback on tools that you could use. Okay, so we're moving to the end. More flexibility in working. Yeah, I think that's great. That will be definitely a nice change for the future of education.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cool. And now we're at 4 minutes that we have left, so we want to make sure that we stay true to our time. So in the fashion of fast feedback and I delta O, we are going to
ask you to go to Venti Meter one last time.
Yes, thank you, Edgar. And ask for your feedback on today's presentation, on our interaction with you, on our YouTube live stream. Get the right words there, Mel.
Yeah.
What did you like about today's learning? And you can chat or you can do the Venti Meter, whichever you feel most comfortable in. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Ertmann's an old answer was always have backup products so there's no initial rush to the stores. It's kind of like a delta for the world.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Relationships and kind of how they have on the attitudes and our values.
Yay. Absolutely. Do you have any eyes that you want to add besides what's up there?
Yeah, I'll add eyes. Thank you. It looks like all of you who joined joined. So I appreciate the feedback. I know this is harder for us, but you guys did a really good job keeping this interactive. It's not the same, but it's definitely something we could work with. So thank you for playing along. Melissa, thank you for putting together a pretty concise PowerPoint presentation. And technology folks, Anthony and John, thank you for being here to make sure that we look good. There are so many wires in this room and batteries. If we make it out of here without getting electrocuted, we'll be a
We will not get electrocuted. I like that Anthony and John made it so we won't get electrocuted. We might fall on our face, but we won't get electrocuted during this time.
Okay.
And I did echo all the things that Edgar said, along with what was submitted. Thank you all for participating and being a part of this. We really appreciate that you took the time to learn and to spend with us today. So absolutely, I like all of those things. Real quickly, how can we improve upon this experience? So Edgar and I get to do this 2 more times tomorrow. So is there any feedback for us to help us make this experience even better?
You can't say snacks because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not gonna
Maybe
happen.
give you 2 or 3 minutes to go get snacks like chocolate or chips.
That could be in the rules.
That could be the image. Melissa and Edgar, that chair, it says Melissa and Edgar will be here in a minute. Go get snacks.
Popcorn.
Yeah, go get snacks. I think that will be my delta. A delta that I think would improve. I think I would add a I delta O for this world on Venti Meter. Right?
Okay.
Like, for what do we like? We did it all in chat here, but I think if we did it on Venti Meter, it would be interesting to see too.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yes, more of these, huh?
Yeah.
Thank
so.
you.
As those are coming in, one of the deltas is we love seeing you in person. If you've met Edgar and I, you know we love interacting and being in face-to-face. So delta would be love to see you all in person. Until then, though, we are hoping to continue this and to continue providing these opportunities for us to interact, to see, and to continue learning from each other.
Nice. A couple other chats that came in. Thank you for helping us think of values, attitudes, and how life has changed. Someone liked how we are having fun. They like our energy and cracking each other up. Something about Venti Meter kept putting me on the homepage with no space to put in the code. All right. Well, we'll look into that.
Yep, absolutely.
But thank you for that feedback.
All right. And then, real quick. Where or how can we use what you learned today? Any thoughts on that?
Curious.
Curiouser and curiouser.
What will you bring back to your world? And then we're going to be done.
Yeah, we are right at time.
Right at time. Maybe some people are, no, everyone's still here. Get your last Venti in. in-person version is very fun.
Love that.
I guarantee you there's going to be some really good tools coming out here in the near future where technology allows us to see you while we do this.
Oh, yes, and
Little
I can see your faces.
screens. Family discussion with values and attitudes. I would love to hear how that goes. And I appreciate you thinking that is something you do. You will have access to the lesson to help guide you through it if you want.
Yep. Awesome.
All right. Well,
as those come in, thank you all again. We want to be mindful of your time. Anything else we want to share?
There's just a few other things they're going to use, touching base with their students. The Venti Meter is a first for me. Self-reflection, encourage conversations around. So yes, thank you for taking some of that. It makes us feel like it's worth being next to someone who is almost too close to me. Just kidding. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye now.
See y'all.
We'll see you at the next one.